Coming up next, it's my pleasure to welcome our distinguished guest for the panel discussion. And the topic is Decentralized Entertainment Economy, Vision and Real-Life Practice, powered by MaGEHold. Joining us on this panel are Ms. Bowie Lau, Managing Director, MaGE Group, who will be moderating the discussion. Mr. Jason Brink, Founder, LFG Incorporated. And Mr. Phee Tejada, Marketing and Business Development Lead, YGG Pilipinas. Now, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please join me in giving a round of applause for our panelists. Welcome. Now, I'll pass the floor to Bowie. Bowie, over to you now.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Very excited and happy to be here today. And Jason and Phee, welcome to Hong Kong.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
thank you.
So let's break the ice. You know, I think a lot of us might not know who you are, what you do. Tell us what you do, who you are, and one fun fact of yourself. Jason?
Sure. So my name is Jason Brink. A lot of people in the Web3 space know me as Bitbender. I've been in blockchain for a really freaking long time, like a really, really long time. And up until a couple months ago, I was president of blockchain at Gala, so we have some interesting things to talk about potentially there. And I like the color orange.
I love it.
I don't know if anyone noticed. And I wear orange professionally a lot, so I apologize if I'm hurting your eyes or your cameras.
That's the fun fact?
Well, I don't know. She wants a fun fact. I don't know. I'm a father of 2 children.
Oh my God, they're so beautiful.
I'm a girl dad, so that's the fun fact. And oftentimes, if you guys have meetings with me, I usually have a child climbing on my head at the time. So that's a fun fact.
That's nice. Phee?
Yeah, hi, I'm Phee. I'm leading biz dev and marketing for YGG Philippines. So what we do, we're like the largest gaming guild in the Web3 across the world. It's like a new form of social network. And a fun fact about me, I used to do esports, so I played professionally back in the early days. I also handled a lot of like content creators, Web3 native in the Philippines. And just like Jason, it's the cats that's climbing whenever I'm in a meeting. So it's not the kids, but at least with me, it's the cats.
Nice, thank you for sharing. So I quick intro of myself. I'm Bowie, based out of Hong Kong. I do venture investment as well as venture building. So in terms of investment, I do direct and indirect. Directly under MaGEHold is early stage focus investment group, where me and my husband, we directly invest into a lot of technology startups. On the other hand, I am a partner of a VC fund called True Global Ventures, and this is a fund specifically focused on Web3 and AI, and we are the early backer of Animoca brand Sandbox Ledger. And let's talk about the gaming economy and the whole ecosystem. Jason, I know you used to base in North America for a long time. Can you share with us on your views in terms of the North America gaming economy as well as the whole ecosystem?
Do you want this specific to Web3, or do you just want gaming in general?
General, yeah.
Gaming in general in North America is very interesting. It's a space that's filled with a tremendous amount of innovation, but it's a space that has a great deal of regulatory pressure on it that prevents it from really growing. This is one of the reasons that, you know, any gaming company, most gaming companies, and especially gaming companies in the Web3 space, are moving out of North America and into more friendly jurisdictions like Hong Kong and like other places in Asia, because it's easier to innovate and grow without sort of that same pressure on it. Right now, one of the things that's shaking up the gaming economy in general is the advent of generative AI. The number of people that I've worked with who, you know, specifically when it comes to the arts, because I'm going to get a lot of flack for saying this, but that's the easiest part to disrupt. The number of artists and things like that who have seen, you know, the rise of generative AI and the trouble that it's caused them is very interesting. And there's, as an industry, we have a lot of adjustment to do to come up with this, to come up with solutions really to the expanded capacity that's being offered by generative AI and LLMs across the board. And this is especially true now that you can, spin them up and run them completely by yourself without, using a gigantic service or anything like that. So it's going to be a very interesting future in gaming.
Great, thank you for sharing. Phee, how about Philippines? Gaming is an important aspect, especially for the entertainment economy. So what is the overview?
Yeah, Philippines is really huge in gaming, right? It's very lively as well. It's very progressive. In fact, a lot of like the schools now in the Philippines and universities are adding, gaming as part of like their elective subject and teaching students on how to play competitively in gaming. Because the way we're doing it now is we're trying to transform gaming just from being a hobby, but just something that people can, take opportunity in terms of augmenting their income, right? So I think that's one. And I think a lot of that because Philippines in general, at least in digital, entertainment economy, we're a mobile-first country. We're very young as well in terms of our demographic. We're very tech-savvy, and it's always been there. Like we've always been consistent in terms of like social media usage as well. So I think that's why gaming is highly adopted in the Philippines. And that's also why, Web3 gaming in particular is very huge in the Philippines as well. And we're also like number one in terms of like adoption there, yeah.
Absolutely. During the pandemic, I think the SC Infinity, YGG, you guys grow so much. And really, I think a pioneer of what we call play to earn, right?
Yeah, and it actually served as like a lifeline for a lot of like the people in the Philippines, especially during the pandemic. A lot of us, lost our jobs during the time, and Web3 gaming in general definitely helped a lot of people survive in a day-to-day basis. And not even that, some of them even allowed them to transition their careers into Web3 as well from just a traditional way of doing work at.
Philippines is a very important place to Hong Kong because the country actually supply a lot of very good domestic helpers. I think we have the number one domestic helper actually coming from Philippines. And why I'm talking about it, because I know a lot of domestic helper actually are very innovative by having the cryptocurrency as a payment, and actually they can just wire it back to their family and support and sustain their family. So this is really cool. Speaking about gaming economy, there are many good projects. Very successful one, you all know. But I think one of the key aspects to have a very successful game project, especially in the Web3 space, is the tokenomics, stand for token economics, right? So, Jason, you are the expert in this space. Tell me, and you have a great, awesome, successful project from Gala. I want you to talk about the tokenomics, the importance of it, definition about it, and what are the secret sauce to a successful tokenomics model?
Sure, I'm actually writing a book about this right now. So
I love it. Make sure when you have it ready, I will be the first reader.
Deal. So tokenomics is a really interesting topic because there really isn't anything more important in the Web3 space, I guess arguably other than security, which I think is a part of tokenomics as well ultimately, than making sure that your system, your game has a robust tokenomic strategy that actually works and will allow the game to continue. Now, the problem is that in the Web3 space, and you've seen this all over the place, tokenomics is very poorly understood and very poorly implemented because people have a tendency to take, what they think is a good Web 2 strategy and then try to shoehorn that into Web 3 and discover that that really doesn't work. Or you have things that, may work totally well for a Web 2 tokenomic structure. For example, having client authoritative models. of a game. So your game, if you're playing it on your phone is the source of truth as opposed to a central server. And then if you take that and you try to build a Web3 tokenomic structure around it, everyone just cheats it all the way to hell and back because they can, and why wouldn't they if you give them the opportunity? So the thing that for me I think is the big secret sauce, and this is the sort of structure of the entire book, is this concept that was something I came up with while I was at Gala called the entrepreneurial metagame. And what that is the entrepreneurial metagame is understanding that you have multiple different stakeholders in any tokenomic structure that need to be involved in the entire process in order for it to work. So if you have, for example, people who are earning a token in a game via playing, okay, those players, okay, the players in the Philippines, and Axie is a great example of this model. Axie had a tokenomic entrepreneurial metagame, and they just probably didn't call it that, in which you had one class of people who would buy Axies, and then you had another class of people who would actually play the game, and giving each of these different people the tools necessary to build up and manage their gameplay, manage their assets, and understanding that the people buying the Axies are doing so because it's a way for them to potentially employ others to make money, and then everyone wins across the board. Understanding that concept is a very important part of establishing a robust tokenomic structure. Then beyond that, making sure that many games have this habit of just spraying tokens out into the world because it's a thing that is extremely easy for them to do, and people get very excited because they get to click. Those Telegram tapper games right now are all the rage. But the reality is that while that works in the short time, and Axie had a problem with this as well, as did Gala's game Townstar, where you tie a specific action to a emission of tokens, and then the more times that action happens, the more matches that are played, the more whatevers are placed on the game board, the more tokens are emitted. That blows out the economy almost instantly. And so you have to work, when you're building your game and you're building your tokenomic structure, you start with the sinks first. You find ways to get rid of the tokens before you think about at all how to create the tokens. And so if you start building your game from that point in time, you're much more likely to build a robust tokenomic structure that actually succeeds and has a token that appreciates in value.
Tell us, you didn't talk about Gala. It's a very successful tokenomics project sample. Tell us a little bit about Gala game.
Gala is a token. Most of the tokenomics that Gala uses, the reason that it was successful is because it was based around incentivizing the node offering. And this is something that at LFG, which I actually realized I didn't introduce at all, I started a company called LFG Incorporated. We're a full-service Web3 project foundry, so anything that you want to do in the Web3 space, we can help you do it, from creation of tokenomics to deployment of smart contracts to security to whatever it is. We either do it or know the people who do. And this is one of the things that LFG is doing right now is allowing people to create node infrastructures that power their entire product, decrease their costs, and these are deep in infrastructures. This is something that Gala was super successful with, and I'm very, very proud of, is that how many people in the audience are familiar with IPFS? A few of you guys, I'm sure. IPFS is essentially the interplanetary file system, and it's the thing that all of Web3 depends on for the decentralized internet. Right now, as of today, 85% roughly of the DHT servers, the distributed hash table servers that power IPFS, are running on Gala founders nodes. Most people have no idea. Without Gala, IPFS is 15% of the size that it is today. And that's really, really powerful. And so that, the tokenomics model that powered that worked at the time. However, there were many changes that have needed to happen from that, and I'm very happy that Gala is making some of those changes. I've been pushing for them for years, and it took me leaving and then yelling at them from outside to get some of it to happen, but here we are.
Thank you for sharing. Phee, let's talk about some challenges, right? So, what are some of the challenges faced by the creators looking to get into the decentralized entertainment economy?
Yeah, I think for creators, not just in the Philippines, but I think in general right now, the main challenge is really like adopting into Web3. Reason for that is because, of course, the technology is still new, and there isn't really much of education done yet, or at least it's not widely really adopted yet to the mainstream, right? So the challenge is getting to know the tools, the platforms, navigating through it. It's still kind of difficult for at least a lot of these creators. And at the same time, for example, if you are like a Web2 content creator transitioning to Web3, one challenge there is how are you going to be able to bring your audience with you as you transition. And I think that's a challenge because not only that you need to educate yourself as a content creator, but you also need to educate your audience, right? And that's something as well that we're trying to, help mitigate at YGG in terms of like, bringing these games, these projects, and also creating educational content that will educate the content creators and even their fan base, right, on how to navigate into Web3. It's still a long way to go, but at least, we've started, yeah.
Yeah, I think education is the main key, regardless, not just the creator, I think everybody. You got to get yourself educated before you can jump the boat and make informed decision to do whatever, either to change your career, to jump into Web3, to invest into tokens, whatnot. Speaking about investment, I think since this is what I do for a living, I think this is important to talk about the investment perspective. Hey, we've seen many successful projects, Sandbox, YGG, SC Infinity, etc. How I felt like I missed the bus. In general, I didn't get a chance to invest into Sand Token or YGG or Tanstar, etc. Those kind of games. Or I didn't get a chance to invest in this type of startup. What are the first of all, what are the top key perspective that you will take into consideration when you think this is a promising project to invest? And what are the secret sauce to navigate? Because there are lots of false promises from the startups, right? Lots of BS happening, right? So how do you, mitigate that kind of risk? And then last but not least, I think this is also important to talk about the fuck-ups, right? But then let's talk about the secret sauce and, maybe Phee, you start.
Yeah, so for us at YGG, there's a different team that's handling investment. But what we do more is really around asset acquisition and entering into strategic partnerships. So what do I mean by asset acquisition? So we basically buy the tokens of the games that we're going to be investing in, right? So the way that we're making decision around which game to acquire assets from is really highly driven by our community, at least now with how it's being shapen. So for example, if right now there's like plenty of games that are being built and many of them are also playable now. And now we have to decide which game to invest in, right? And I think more than just like the traditional way of doing your due diligence of getting to know the founders, what's their runway, and then what the tokenomics is for the game. I think one crucial, component that a lot of like investors are missing out is the game going to be played by the gamers? Is it going to be enjoyed by the community? And I think that's the key learning that we got in YGG. And that's where we're, driving our decision making a lot in terms of which game to invest in. Yeah.
Yeah. Any fuck-up experience that you can share?
Yeah, I think this was, mentioned a little bit by Jason already, and I'm not going to mention anything in particular, but I think just
example,
in general,
right? Yes.
Yeah, just in general, I think vesting schedule is something that's very challenging right now in investment. A lot of like the founders have changed their vesting schedule, completely different from the initial agreement that you guys had. There's also like a lot of this, decisions made by founders is driven by some other factors as well. Like, for example, as they get into a new exchange, right? There's like a demand that then, force them to change those, important, metrics as, investors come in. So I think just really more of that as well. And then also like because a lot of like the founders right now, like whenever they build something, they tend to base their decision making on what's the current trend and not really looking into what's going to happen in the next 1 or 2 years, right? And not factoring in really like regardless of like what cycle in the market that we're going to be in. So a lot of that is happening right now, like over promising and under delivering. I think those are really like some of the great fucks up that that's happening in investment. Yeah.
Thank you, Jason.
I mean, I just would like to echo that. I mean, that's all. He covered pretty much most of it. One of the challenges that game teams have is, and this is especially true with Web 2 game teams that then decide to move into Web 3, is the development cycle for a Web 2 game is years long. And so they'll sit down and they'll say, okay, what are the things that need to be done? They'll come up with a plan, and then they'll just go away for a couple years while they build stuff, because that's how it works in Web 2, right? It's very simple. And then they show up 2 years later, the market's in an entirely different spot, and they ship the game, and everyone's like, oh my God, what is this garbage? This is terrible. This would have worked 2 years ago, but this is not going to work now. And, then they have to pivot, and that creates a bunch of frustration and stuff. For me, in terms of investment, the thing that I always look at and understanding that the best indicator, and I know that this is like exactly opposite of what they always tell you, but the best indicator for future success is past performance. So look at who the founders of the team are. Do they actually know what the fuck they're doing, or are they just like inventing something new? And if they are inventing something new, that might be super cool, but please, for the love of God, make sure that they have people who are advising them that do know what they're doing. Because I see time and time again, very, very inexperienced teams coming up with these tokenomics and shipping models and stuff like that are just hot garbage. And people go and throw money at them, and it's not going to work, and that's super unfortunate. Anyway, I'm going to shut up now so you can do your thing.
No. I actually want to get more because before we were having some drinks earlier, you were sharing with us one fuck up experience from the previous company you worked for.
Yeah.
Would you like to talk about it?
Sure. I can share a little bit. I mean, but one of the things that's super important is making sure that you get your agreements down right, because your legal agreements. Because when you're investing in a project, especially if you're investing in a project sort of at a fairly high level, oftentimes you have this almost sense of hopium about it, like this is going to be great, this person's wonderful, and nothing bad is ever going to happen, and things like that. And so your agreements are a little bit more slapdash than they probably should be. And sometimes, lawyers sometimes make mistakes, and ugly things can happen from that. And so, take the time, check the stuff, make sure that if they are going to do things like changing your tokenomic structure, last minute investing schedules, what does that mean for you? Does that modify things for you? Is there any sort of, because again, sometimes with teams, stuff has to happen. Okay, the team has to do what it's going to do, and you're probably fine with letting them do it, but there should be some sort of structure around that. And so understanding that, I think, is really important, and making sure that you check your agreements, you check everything that you're doing, and you're investing intelligently in teams with proven track records, or that are being advised by people with proven track records, to make sure that everything is legit and above board, and you have the greatest chance of success that way.
Totally agree, because when you talk about the legal agreement, I don't have a law background, even though I can read the agreement, but I might not totally understand what is written, right? That's why we need a trustworthy, reputable law firm or lawyer who can help you to navigate these type of challenges, right? We are running out of time, but I want to keep on talking, and they are cutting my time, and this is not right. So, but before I close this fireside chat. Can I ask you both? Can you give us one key takeaway to our audience today? What are the key that you wanted us to remember before we wrap up? Phee.
Yeah, I think for us, especially in gaming and Web3, the most important thing is to really build your community. I think we should really bet on our community more. A lot more of your resources to your community, because a lot of the projects right now are, putting their resources in many different things that sometimes only work short term. And it's not technically a bad thing as long as you know how to leverage that, arbitrage, right? But I think it's really, at the end of the day, it's really about building your community, betting on them, train them, upskill them, and just really provide, different opportunities to them, because people may come first just to play games or to earn money. But what make them really stay is the sense of belonging, the sense of opportunity. And I think that's the most important thing that, I want to share with, the rest of the guys
Thank
here.
you. Jason?
I was going to say something very similar. Community is something that is incredibly important to me, and one of the reasons that I've done many of the things that I've done is about, taking care of the community, delivering on the promise, even if other people won't. For me, for a long time, as sort of the face of a large company, there were a lot of times where I was told things and give that to the community and had it not end up being the way that it was supposed to because of other things outside of my control. And so, taking care of the community, taking, responsibility, stepping up and pushing really hard to help them and the company and everybody else achieve success is really important. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, we're all in this together. This is not a thing that's about one person or one company or anything like that. It's about a global community of gamers and entertainers and creators and builders and founders, programmers and devs, everybody at every level. If we all work together, we can change the world. If we, sit in our own corners being greedy, then nothing is going to happen, and this beautiful dream that we've all created dies. And, I don't want to see that happen. So let's fucking go, guys.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Phee. Let's give them a big round of applause, and thank you for sharing.